First Coast's most accurate forecast from the First Coast News Weather Team, certified by Weather Rate, sponsored by AC Designs.
Look at this.
Almost the whole team
four.
here, minus Lewis
The Fab
Turner.
Four.
The Fab Four minus.
Hopefully Lou's sleeping. Or maybe,
Yes.
maybe he's taking his kids to practice, but
Yeah, so we got the whole crew here, not only Lee, Tim, myself inside in studio here, but also gifted with meteorologist Robert Speta outside. And I heard
he's the lucky one.
Yeah, it's a little explosive out there this afternoon,
What's
Robert.
he wearing? Is he wearing
That's
like
his
protective
science
gear?
coat.
Oh, wow.
Got the lab
Love
coat
it.
going on here. Weather is nice, so I figured instead of sitting inside the studio with you three, I'd come out here and hang out, maybe do a little science in a few minutes.
Well, I was going to say, you can take it away, Robert. I think we're going to start with you here.
Ooh,
So-
really?
Oh
you're
yeah.
top of the
You were the
show.
top of the show.
All right. So what I wanted to talk about here at the top before we get into the forecast, this is a beautiful day. I mean, come on, gorgeous weather out here today. Is actually a little science here for you. Though. This is something we do with a lot of elementary school kids, type of STEM that you can do at home with everyday stuff. Basically, I got some vinegar here, and I got a box of baking soda, and I got some balloons. So what we're gonna do is we're going to demonstrate, how carbon can be released not only into the balloon here, but also into the atmosphere. Because, like when we burn things, like let's say gasoline powered cars, burning trees, things like that, carbon is released into the atmosphere, right? I mean, Tim, you could talk about this a little bit more while I'm kind of pouring this out here, but let's touch in on just like the greenhouse gases getting released in the atmosphere. How does that impact our everyday weather?
So Tim, do you want to expand a little bit on kind of how the greenhouse gases affect our everyday weather here a little bit?
Yeah, can I do that now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, folks, we use the term greenhouse gas because it actually acts like a greenhouse. For those of you who have never seen a greenhouse and how it works, it allows the sunlight in, but then that radiational heat is not allowed to leave, the greenhouse. In this terminology, when we talk about the greenhouse, we're talking about the atmosphere. And so if there is something that can trap it, in this case, the greenhouse gases, which would be the CO2, then that, there you go.
I made a mess.
A heavy
That was
pour
not
there.
part of the science experiment. So yeah, that's the point. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna trap the carbon dioxide being released from this baking soda here into the balloon, and it's gonna blow up. And the whole point is that when you burn things and you kind of release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, a lot of people say, "Oh, we can't have an impact on our atmosphere." This is a simple experiment, just showing you that when you separate carbon dioxide from other materials, it is going to get released somewhat, at least, into the atmosphere. So we're doing this live, trying to get this over top. Oh my God, I broke my balloon. Let's see if I can.
I'm like nervous for Robert just sitting here watching.
Yes.
We're
My
seeing why
balloon
it's called
broke
an
a little bit,
experiment.
so I'm trying to get the seal tight on this. Like the seal part of it broke. I might have to restart it. I've already made a mess. All right, here we go. So we're gonna zoom in here.
Drum
Let's
roll.
see
Say
this
drum roll,
balloon.
yeah, we keep drum rolling.
Oh no, come on. I'm holding it because it's leaking out one of the holes here. Come on,
You can see it.
don't fail me now. Oh, here we go. Oh gosh, it's filling right up. But the balloons. I think I messed this up a little bit.
Bro, do you have
I'm
another-
gonna try this again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you have another
I
balloon?
have more.
Okay.
I do. I have a whole bag of balloons. We're gonna do this right. Okay. You guys carry on. Give me 2 minutes, because I've kind of made a mess here. I did this at home and it worked I smell like vinegar now too. Great.
Yeah, so while Robert's working on getting the second balloon ready to go, we're going to hand it over to Lee. You've kind of all week been talking about some of the latest updates on the products from the National Hurricane Center. And I know you touched on this a little bit yesterday, but just kind of expand on it a little bit more here now this afternoon. Lee.
Yes, so what we talked about today, the main point that you'll also see tonight at 5:30 is about how the cone's going to be smaller. So again, just so you all know, this is an example. This is Hurricane Irma from 2017. There is nothing out there in the tropics right now. But it's just showing you, just reminding you what the cone looks like. Now, most everyone knows what a forecast cone looks like here. So we are seeing these forecast tracks get more and more accurate. And so Michael Brennan, who's the director of the National Hurricane Center, spoke with us, and he told us that it's going to be about 5% smaller this year. Guys, that's a good thing, because that's going to mean that the track is becoming more accurate. It's the center of the storm, though. Remember, it is the center of that tropical storm or hurricane. So there's positives and negatives with this. Of course, the positive is the track is becoming more accurate. That is fantastic that they are making it thinner by about 5%, so we know a little bit more precisely where the center of that storm is going. The negative is that a lot of people think, oh, I'm not under the cone, I'm okay. And that is obviously not the case. So what we talked about today with the director of the National Hurricane Center, Michael Brennan, is about how they also, as we touched on earlier in the week, have this experimental cone that shows you all of the watches and warnings that are active, because we know that those impacts extend well beyond the cone. So it's good news to share with you all that the cone is getting more and more accurate, more and more precise. It's getting smaller, and that's by 3 to 5% this year compared to last year. But please don't forget that just because the cone isn't overhead doesn't mean that you won't receive impacts in the form of wind, that's what the tropical storm and hurricane watches and warnings are. It's wind, but also you can receive storm surge, tornadoes, flooding, rain, rip currents. So many impacts can happen well outside the cone. So guys, I think it's a good thing that we're getting more precise with this cone. I know we can just think back to 10 or 20 years ago when the cone encompassed the entire state of Florida practically. So it's amazing that it's getting thinner. It is our job here as broadcast meteorologists to continue that messaging that you can receive impacts well outside the cone.
And when does that story air tonight, Lee?
5:30.
5:30. And I think Robert has a whole extended version of that interview with the National Hurricane Center director.
Yes.
That'll either be on our website or right here on FCN Plus. So if you miss it at 5:30, the whole, I think, 10 or 15 minute long interview can be seen there. Now, speaking of Robert, have you gotten your second balloon ready to go back outside? Not yet?
Oh.
Not yet.
Okay.
Well, we're waiting for him. Is there any way to go back to Irma? Because I think it makes such a great point about what Lee was saying. Okay, so first of all, notice that when Irma's all the way down near Cuba, the eye, so it's still, 2.5 days away from Jacksonville. Notice if you're just looking at the cone, it covers just our western counties. And yet Irma's rainfall ended up being the heaviest rain, combining with the onshore winds we've had, and caused some of the worst widespread flooding on the St. Johns ever recorded. So I think Irma is a great example, number one, of don't think, okay, we're not really on the cone, so it's not going to be that bad. Irma showed us that that's not the case. But point number two, and I remember this specifically because if you follow it as it went from category 3 to 1, notice how close it gets to Tallahassee, and notice how it looks like it's moving away from Savannah and Charleston. And I remember specifically because my wife, being a Seminole, had a lot of parents saw that it looked like the center was going toward Tallahassee. Their students were there, and they were freaking. However, for those who weren't here, and meteorologists, this might make sense to use in the terminology, we thought that there would be shear. When the hurricane weakened, it was sheared, and a triple point developed. Well, if you were to draw the triple point, which is not what the Hurricane Center was drawing, the Hurricane Center, I'm not saying they were wrong, they were following where the lowest pressure was, right? And the lowest pressure went pretty close to what that showed, just about going right over Tallahassee. But by the time it went over Tallahassee, it was down to a tropical storm and then a tropical depression. However, the triple point, right about once it got to Tampa, the triple point pulled away, went right over Jacksonville, and then Savannah and Charleston, not even close to the cone, ended up also having record flooding and hurricane force wind gust. So a lot of lessons learned, and just trying to triple underline what Lee just said.
That was a great point. I was working in Gainesville at the time, so I was inland, but we got a lot of impacts there too.
And I'm sure people were very concerned, obviously, because it looked like the eye going right over the Gainesville area.
Yes.
But I think by about that time, some of the worst weather was starting to shift more toward the northeast Florida coast and then head up toward Fernandina and beyond. So Robert how many balloons is he on now?
Looks like he got an assistant out there.
Yes.
He needed an extra pair of hands.
Yeah, Bella's
So if
behind
anybody
the,
was wondering if
scenes
this is
here.
live television, this is proof.
Take it away, Robert.
Science was sped
You know
up.
what's extra great about this is that I just kind of knocked all the baking soda out of my bottle, so it's all crinkled up. So you can see it's compressed. But I guess that's the point. It kind of shows the expansion of the carbon dioxide coming onto the bottle here. I'm trying my best not to.
I'm amazed at his
the
composure.
balloon.
I would be sweating by now.
Can we just have Bella come out and hold it
it's-
so you can put it on
is-
Look how
easier?
calm and
I'm
cool and
also-
collected he looks.
I'm also just like goodness. Can you hold that?
There we go.
There's Bella. Shout out Bella.
Bella has come from behind the curtain.
I think we got it. All right. You ready? You guys ready for this? This is going to be amazing.
We're ready to
It better
go.
be amazing. All right. Here we go.
This is better than NASA.
So, oh, come on. Blow up balloon. There we go. So, yeah, it blows up. That's the point. It's getting released. It's actually getting a little bigger now. As that carbon dioxide gets released into the bottle, it tries to escape into the atmosphere. And this same idea goes for, releasing carbon into the atmosphere, just doing your everyday activities. And this is how, we're seeing more and more carbon being released every year. It's proven fact. And this is just a little micro scale experiment about, displaying that. Despite the fact I have made myself a big mess when I smell like vinegar, and I'm sure my wife, when I go home, is going to be like, why do you stink so much? Take a shower immediately. Shout out to Bella, because she also smells like vinegar now, too.
Thank you, Bella, and thank you, Robert, with a special Wednesday edition of Science with Speta out there. So
Yeah.
some
Round
fun
of
stuff
applause
here.
for them.
Forecast-wise, should we? Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
Oh, no, I'm just standing by. I'm not going anywhere yet. I'm just going to play with my balloon here.
Okay.
Oh, I got teal for the Jags. Go, Jags! Duval!
Speta's full of energy out there. He's soaking up the sun. It has him in high spirits out there on this Wednesday afternoon, right? All right, Andy, let's pull up the graphics here to see what we got going on. I think from a radar standpoint is what I got here to start. So you saw it kind of behind Robert. Not too many clouds out there, plenty of sunshine, dry skies. It's a bit of a warm afternoon, but actually pretty seasonal for this time of the year. Low 80s for a lot of us, upper 70s out there along the coastline. But Tim, you mentioned this during our stream yesterday, so I did kind of look up the statistics last evening. With yesterday's high of 82 degrees, that now puts us at the 4th warmest April on record, specifically for Jacksonville. So you can see there the warmest average high temperature was 84.7 in 2011. So based off of what we're going to see here today, probably not going to break the record, obviously, but top 5 warmest Aprils ever. So that just kind of shows you how the month has gone. It has been warm, it has been very dry, and we are expecting dry weather here tonight as well. Once the sun sets, temperature's going to cool down into the low 60s, perhaps a few locations inland getting down into the mid to upper 50s. So not too many more nights with temperatures that low here, especially for our inland areas. But tomorrow then, looking pretty good. Might see at most a 5% chance of maybe an inland shower, but even that seems pretty slim to none. So mostly sunny to partly cloudy skies, temperature-wise in the mid-80s tomorrow. So overall, a pretty similar story to what we saw here today, maybe just 1 or 2 degrees warmer, and especially for inland areas west of Highway 301, you're talking highs in the upper 80s tomorrow afternoon, potentially.
Here it comes.
But this is
Woo!
Lee's time to shine here, not only to talk about the forecast, but to quiz Tim as well. If you guys tuned in yesterday, we said Tim was going to have a test on the way here today. So
I will say, too, Tim, I told you this earlier, but I thought I knew my flags. I was wrong with 2 of them. So,
Can you check me?
I can check you. I have the list here. Do you want to do it in order, or are you just going to go?
Of course I want to do it in order. In fact, that's what I was going to say, that I remembered decades ago that I wanted to finally learn it. And because my memory is not good, truly, what I started to think about was American history. And it seems like I do best when I follow American history. I mean, once you get past what the Spanish and French did, right?
Right.
Okay, so here we go.
Okay.
So the French were first.
Yes.
They were Huguenots, which the way I understand it is, so you might think of back in those days, talking about 1500s, right, 1562, that French and Spanish majority Catholic. But these folks were Huguenot, which I believe were Protestant. Now that's especially significant because then when the Spanish came, they did not, being Catholic, they did not like the fact that the Huguenots were there, and next thing you know, there's a massacre.
are you naming the flags or not?
He
Well,
is?
yeah,
No, that's
yeah,
incredible.
but that's how I remember.
So, yeah, he's starting with
What are you
France.
talking about?
So,
He was
so we
leading
got
into
till
number
422. So anyhow, that's how I remember. That
first
the
one's
French
France.
were first, 1562. And I'm going to get back to that at some point because to me that's a significant number. Spanish took over.
Yep.
But still, I just think that history is amazing because if you remember, the Spanish were the French were there first. Then came the Spanish in St. Augustine. The French thought they would take over the Spanish. A hurricane, or as far as we know, a tropical cyclone hit them, right?
Yep.
And as they are dispersed and especially weakened, then the Spanish took advantage of that situation. So bottom line is, up in Fernandina, Spanish had the second flag.
Whoop.
Well, then came the English. So the English had the third
So
flag.
good.
But now this is where I get to American history, because then came the American Revolution, of course. But remember, the 13 colonies only go to Georgia. So the English didn't want us to have the flag. So it went from French to Spanish. It went from French to Spanish to English, but then the English gave it back to the Spanish.
Ding, ding, ding.
Okay, so the
That's
fourth
number 4.
flag now back to the Spanish.
Yep.
But remember, there's Americans in Georgia. And so the Americans in Georgia, initially not flying the American flag, they came down and they said, we want Fernandina. So they put their flag up, and I believe that was the Patriot flag.
Patriots of Amelia Island.
Okay,
Oh
so-
my gosh, she's blowing my mind right now. Yep.
Then, but the Spanish were still pretty strong. The Spanish came back, but it wasn't called the Spanish flag. I think it was called the Green Cross flag.
Yes.
Okay, so but by this point, of course, now we're getting into the 1800s, but remember, it's the Florida is not American yet, right? Even though Georgia is, and then comes what? Comes the Civil War, and so then the Confederates come down and say we're going to take over Florida, and so the Confederate flag flies, and then finally, I think in 1862. Or does it go, where am I at now, 6 or 7?
So that was 6. Now, I am really glad you brought that up
Mm-hmm.
because I did think that one of the flags were Confederate, but at AmeliaIsland.com, it's not.
What do they call it?
They say it's Mexico's flag.
See, I was thinking it went from Confederate to Mexico and then the American, and that's how we get to 8, no?
No, they said that they count Spain twice.
Okay.
So that 8 flags, but one repeated itself, and that it went from the Green Cross of Florida
Right.
to Mexico to the U.S.
Okay, to the U.S., okay. And was that 1862?
1817 was Mexico, 1821 was U.S.
1821, okay, was
Yep.
U.S. Then it went to Confederate, and then
So that
back
makes
to
sense.
the U.S.
So they probably just grouped that, but
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Okay, so.
That was incredible. Are you
one other
kidding
thing I wanted
me?
to note, and I promise I'll stop here, Ross.
No,
is
don't
that,
stop.
You know,
What?
I think this area, and I think one of those flags, if not a couple, although they like an official terminology, they really were flown by mercenaries. And that's a loose term for pirates, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking. I was about to ask you because I was growing up. You know, we
Yeah.
were like, "Oh, one of our flags is a pirate flag."
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Where's the pirate flag?" So yes, please
Yeah, so
explain this.
I think both the Patriot flag and the Green Cross flag, at least, although they had official names, that they were really mercenaries for. So the Patriot flag, they were mercenaries for the U.S. The Green Cross were mercenaries for the Spanish, and there might have been one other group, but basically they were pirates.
Okay.
Paid
Hold on,
paid
hold
to
on.
do work, weren't necessarily from those countries.
One of the flags
I'm going to
for
say one
me-
more thing.
Hey, wait,
Go
let
ahead, Robert.
Yeah, let Robert go.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying one of the flags for Amelia Island was a pirate flag. Is that what I heard right there?
One of the flags was a pirate flag. Sorry, Lee and Tim can't hear you.
Yeah. What did Robert just say? Will you?
He's trying to confirm. So one of the flags was a pirate flag or no?
So it's not there. You could technically call the Patriot flag and the Green Cross flag pirate flags.
They
like,
sound,
quote,
yeah.
unquote.
They sound
Oh, I
very
was thinking like a
tech-tipped, but they were
skull and
basically
crossbones.
pirates. Yeah. Hey, so one of the points I wanted to make is that I do think our area is known as having rebels. Now, if you think about it, if we go from 1562 to now, the U.S. flag has only flown on it for 160 years.
But
So the minority of those years.
And Amelia Island claims to be, I mean, we fight with Pensacola, but the second oldest city in the United States. We know St. Augustine's first. We say we are second. Pensacola tries to claim second, but they stuck a flag and left. We stuck a
Yes.
flag and we stayed.
I think that's a huge point.
So we are number 2.
That's why I think the First Coast gets a double whammy. Absolutely. The First Coast. Thus the First Coast.
Should we show the 7-day before we have to wrap up in a minute?
Sure. There we go. Take
So
it
we
away,
need
Tim.
some rain, right?
Yes, we definitely do.
But do we want it on the weekend?
No, not the weekend.
Yeah.
I won't be here this weekend, so it can rain as much as it wants.
Hey, okay.
So we're thinking. So do you agree, team, that we're thinking that the majority of that thunderstorm activity should haul off until maybe 6 to 8 o'clock Saturday, something like that, maybe?
6 to 8 o'clock.
Holding off until then?
If you feel confident in that, I would say as early as maybe 4 or 5.
Okay, all right. How about you, Lee?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot when you know today I didn't forecast.
Oh,
I'm
no
doing
spot.
the behind the
Just
scenes
How
stuff.
you feeling it?
I think the safe way to put it, late Saturday.
Okay.
We'll have some rain chances.
Yeah. Now Sunday could be any time, right?
Yeah, off and on. I think probably throughout the day,
Okay,
and a little cooler then for next week. So
good stuff.
something to look forward to.
Yeah, I like that cooler air.
Yeah.
See y'all in May or tomorrow.